What's up, Sooner Nation, and welcome to another edition of the WhackoPreview Podcast, where we go over all things OU football going into the weekend of matchups ahead. I'm Steve Curtis, the voice behind Wacko Sooners, and today we've got plenty to dive into. We're going to talk about the state of OU football, the team, the coaches, the fans, the works. We're also going to do a preview of the matchup versus the South Carolina Gamecocks coming up tomorrow, 11:45 a.m. Central Time kickoff at the South Carolina State Fair there in Columbia. And finally, our SEC Wacko picks of the week. We're going to break it all down right here on Wacko Sooners, so be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. Plus, you can always follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all at Wacko Sooners for live news updates, game time highlights, and a couple funny memes and reels to keep it lighthearted and fun, like we like it here in Sooner Nation. So go hit those follows. Make sure you're always in the Wacko loop. All right, so first of all, state of OU football. Who are we coming into this game against the Gamecocks tomorrow? Well, little bit of a refresher for everyone. We got our lunch handed to us in Dallas this past Saturday. Lost to Texas 23-6. We had 258 total yards, 210 passing yards, 48 rushing. 43 of those rushing yards were by the running backs. 16 first downs, and we were 6 of 17 on third down. John Mateer threw 3 interceptions. Also remember, he was coming off that injury that he sustained in the Auburn game, and as a result missed 3 weeks of practice, had next to no live reps with the ones coming into the Cotton Bowl last week. So, something to be said for that. Of course, was not a good showing. Nothing looked right on offense. Defense was great in the first half, slowly just fell off a bit in the second half simply because they were exhausted, because Texas was getting long sustained drives back-to-back as well, since Oklahoma had a grand total of 4 plays there in that third quarter on offense. So just defense was pretty worn out. Yes, the time of possession was fairly equal, but Texas owned the ball in the second half. So there, when it came crunch time, where defense needed to make some plays, they were too tired. But that same defense held the Texas offense to 16 total points, all right? A touchdown and a couple of field goals. Yes, the score was 23-6, but one of those touchdowns that they got was the result of a punt return. So that's not the defense's fault. Auburn's offense had more success against Oklahoma, and Auburn's offense is terrible. Now, Texas fans will probably, because Texas fans are showing up in my comment sections everywhere, on everything, everywhere, just saying, oh, so you're saying if Auburn scored more than us, then y'all must be really bad. No, not saying that at all. This is a dang good defense, and y'all did a good job of owning the clock there in the second half when you needed to, so props. But we look better against our cupcakes than y'all did. We didn't let Illinois State or Temple or Kent State score more than a grand total of 6 points in those 3 games against us, versus Texas gave up 17 against their 3 cupcakes. So, anyways. So, that's a review of the Cotton Bowl. Just a refresher for everyone. I know that we'd all rather forget it, but when talking about football, you shouldn't forget past performances. In fact, use those as springboards, okay? And that's kind of what I want to see our team thinking here coming into this game, is that we came in hot, we were doing good, had a very poor performance, and we need to be mad. We need to play mad. We need to practice mad. We need to do everything mad. And a lot of that is going to center around John and the offensive line. First off, let's talk about John a little bit. Again, injury, missed 3 weeks of practice. In the post-game presser on Saturday, he took full accountability. Just like, hey, it was on me. I was not where I needed to be mentally. My eyes were not locked in. I was a little too happy with my feet. Wasn't accurate. Nothing was working right. Except for the first couple of drives that got us those first 2 field goals. Or only field goals. So I think that John, the kind of competitor he is, and we'll talk about what the coaches have had to say about him this week here in a second as well. Knowing the kind of competitor that John is and how hard-nosed he is and how tough he is. And just again, the level of competitor he is, how seriously he takes his work, how mature he is in his process. I think he's going to come back pretty good this week. I don't think he'll be 100% yet when it comes to comparing him this Saturday to the first 4 games of the year, because he didn't play the 5th game. Because, of course, injury is still going to linger a little bit for a while. And then also having 1 week back at practice isn't going to correct everything. I think he will look much better. The South Carolina defense, while good, especially at edge, is not as good as Texas' defense. Texas' defense is probably the best one that we will see all year. So that's comforting, in that because also this is the only unranked team that Oklahoma has to face on the remainder of the schedule. Now, that's not a shot at South Carolina being bad. That's just simply looking at our opponents right now. This is our easiest one on all metrics that we have at this moment in time. So that being said, it's comforting to know that after a rough loss like the one last week, we have a slightly lighter opponent that we can, of course, have to take seriously, because Shane Beamer and those guys down there, they will stand up and bite you if you overlook them. And given how that went last year when we played them right after Texas, I don't think we're going to be doing that this year. We're a little hungry, we're a little mad, and we're especially mad because we got killed last week. So I think we're going to come out for blood. I think John's going to look much better. I hope that offensive line comes out angry and comes out with aggression and speed and pushes. We'll see how that goes. I have no worries about the defense, especially since the South Carolina offensive line has had its issues, but we'll talk about it a little bit more as we go into the game breakdown, or game preview, I guess. As for coaches, what they've had to say about the team and about John, BV in his presser on Tuesday, he's praising the whole unit, that they're all just such a great group of guys. They know how to punch back. They know how to punch back hard. They're angry. They are practicing like it. And they're really invested in the program and in the belief of this coaching staff, that they're rearing to go. They want to go. They want to dominate. And they get the chance to show us here on Saturday. And then as for John, BV said, and I quote, "Have even more respect for him. He wants to take the whole team, put them on his back," which isn't fair to ask him to do that. But BV just, he hasn't known John very long by comparison to, say, Coach Arbuckle and Coach Coos. But ultimately, John, from what we know and what Brent is saying, is the kind of guy that you want in your locker room, leading the offense, leading the team as your quarterback. Based on that, he's dedicated, hard worker, again, fierce competitor, and total accountability on every level. And love to see that. Let's hope that it pays off and it's not just a bunch of words. As for Coach Arbuckle, again, he said that John's the ultimate competitor. He's his harshest critic, and he's really focusing on cleaning up the mechanics, and he's being intentional with his improvement. Great things to hear. And the team, post Red River, and then this week in post-practice interviews, all singing John's praises, like, yeah, he's going to be fine. We're going to be fine. We're going to come out mad. We're going to go nuts. We're going to do all we can. So that's hopeful. Jaden Gibson, real quick. We'll talk about that for a minute while we're talking about just the state of OU football right now in general, and then we'll get into the coaches' weeds here in a second. So Jaden Gibson, wide receiver, 2022, 2023, or it may have just been 23. No, I think it was 2022. Let's double check this. I should have double checked this earlier. But Jaden Gibson, he tore his patellar tendon in fall camp of 2024 and missed all of last year. And remember, this is a big guy. He's 6'5", 186 pounds. Had 5 total touchdowns in 2023. Absolute monster. Okay, yeah, he was here in 2022. So he would have been a junior last year. Just we weren't able to get him back last year because of the nature of that injury. We were hoping we'd be able to see him a lot this year, or at least some, maybe towards the later part of the year, just depending on how that recovery went. And we haven't. we didn't. And as of Wednesday, it was announced by Venables himself that Jaden Gibson is no longer with the program. Sad to say, sad to see. Very talented kid, great work ethic. Could have just chosen to transfer right after 2024, seeing all the crap that went down on the team last year, in addition with his injury. Really hope to be able to get him back, because absolute weapon on the football field, but just couldn't put all the pieces together of him getting recovered right, being able to play in the same way, and just wasn't the move for either side in this anymore. And it was a lot of conversations about just, hey, where are we going with this? What do we think we need to do? So Jaden Gibson is no longer attached to the Oklahoma football team. Odds are he will end up transferring out in this portal cycle. But of course, by the time he will actually start playing, it will have been almost 3 years. Well, 2. About 2 years since he was practicing, and about 2.5, almost 3 years since he played a live rep in a live game. Wish Jaden all the best. Great kid. Loved seeing him in 2023 ball out and just be an absolute monster that no one was expecting, there with Nick Anderson as well. But the bigger question around OU football right now, and this isn't just about, the game that we're going into this week, or Jaden Gibson leaving, or John Mateer didn't look great one week, and now everyone's saying he's been exposed, he's bad. He had one bad game coming off an injury and missing 3 weeks of practice. But the biggest question is, what's going on with this staff, and what direction are they taking this program? Or, more accurately, what direction are they not taking this program? So we'll start on the defensive staff. I'm not worried about a single one of those guys. Everyone on that defensive staff is an absolute stud at what they do. Their guys love them. They are intense, and they are the best at what they do. Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis. Love those guys. I love Todd on Twitter with all of his little acronyms for everyone. I love to see it. Miguel Chavis he's like the fun uncle. He is the fun uncle. I love Miguel. And oddly enough, they're both really good coaches. They're at the interior and the edge rushers for the defensive line. Nate Dreiling and Wes Goodwin on the linebackers. So far, they've been doing a great job. Dreiling, I think, was a great pickup after his stint with Utah State and then over at Central Arkansas, and just saying, hey, get on over here. Wes Goodwin came over from Clemson and worked with BV for years back in the day. Another great get, because he knows how Brent likes to work. Now, Wes wasn't a great DC for Clemson the last couple of years, but again, he knows how Brent likes to do things and how to manage it within that, so that's going to be fine. The linebackers have been great. Jay Valai at corner, the way that the little guys that he's managed to bring out of the woodworks, right? Eli Bowen, Cortland Guillory, and what he's been able to do with Kendall Dolby since he's come back from injury. Devon Jordan, too. That's great. Seeing Jay just go nuts with all these young guys. Brandon Hall at safety. You got Robert Spears-Jennings, Michael Boganowski, Reggie Powers, and Peyton Bowen all back there. If that's not a testament to Brandon Hall, I don't know what is. So point is, and then BV calling the plays. Defensive staff is fine. As for the offense, man. Actually, you know what? Before we get to the offense, let's talk about Brent for a little bit. So, ultimately, I think that Brent is the guy for the job. Now, what do I mean when I say that? I mean he is the right kind of guy with the right kind of intensity and the right kind of experience and, of course, the cultural knowledge of Oklahoma of how to be the head coach that takes us to go do something, whether that be SEC championship, natty, ideally a couple of natties in a perfect world. But also with how volatile college football is now, you never know. Ultimately, I think Brent has all of those capacities. He is a first-time head coach. Now, granted, he's going to year 4, so that excuse doesn't really hold anymore. I think the biggest problem he's had is he has basically left the offense to figure itself out. He hires an OC and says, OC, do your thing, but you have to keep all the staff that I want you to keep. That's not going to work. That can't work anymore. We saw it with Levy. It worked well enough. Seth Luttrell, it did not work. Ben Arbuckle, it worked enough in the early 5 games of the season, but as soon as we played against Texas and John had been out and wasn't quite right, it fell apart. The run game's been terrible all year. Get DeMarco Murray out of here. All right, I'll get back to that in a minute. We all remember my tangent about the running backs and DeMarco Murray back on Monday's Wacko Review. Would have talked about it more on Wacko Weekly, but needs dictated we could not do that this week, unfortunately. We are planning to be back next week, though, on Wednesday morning. So I think Brent needs to go into the offense, clean house, like he did with the defense pretty quickly after he got here, and build an offensive staff with the same kind of guys that are as nuts and intense and physically focused when it comes to how they coach their players as he and the defensive staff are. He needs to find the same kind of guys that he got for the defense and get it over on the offense too. Bill Bedenbaugh. You had some great lines back in Baker, Kyler, Jalen Hurts days. But the last 4 years, it has gotten worse. Every year, it has fallen off the rails. And it's better this year than it was last year. I will give you that. But it is not a big enough jump to the point of what we need. It just isn't. So, I will go with... I will give Bill Bedenbaugh to the end of the 2026 season to have a pretty dang decent offensive line, because you've got Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje in there right now, true freshmen. You've got Jake Michaela at center right now. Bet you he will play another year. You've got a couple other good guys. You got EPL. You've got UK Dan. You've got plenty of guys in there that you wanted, that you went and got, and you're happy with. And on top of that, you're bringing in Caden Penny and Cooper Hackett in 2027, so that's a little bit far removed. But you've got tons of guys coming in. You've got Noah Best coming in 2026. You've got Deacon Schmidt coming in 2026. And you're recruiting well, so that's a plus, but I need to see more. I need to see intensity and aggression from these guys. So I will give Bill Bedenbaugh to the end of 2026 to really show me that he's still got it on the offensive line. Emmett Jones at wide receiver, fine. Just need to recruit better in there, hopefully. And I'm not preying on Florida's downfall because I don't like Florida. I'm just preying on Florida's downfall simply because I want Davian Gross, if we can get him to flip back, because he was supposed to commit to Oklahoma, if you remember. Would love, and we've done a good job recruiting so far, because also we've got Elijah Thomas there, true freshman, Zion Kearney, Ivan Carrion, some big guys that we've got. I want to see more of them. And I get it. We've got Satania, we've got Burks, we've got Lewis. I want to see more Javonte Gibson. Like, come on, buddy. This is our big receiver. Let's use him. Bring it. Coach Kuz at quarterbacks, he'll be fine. Mateer's been solid for the most part. Couple of bad decisions. Last week against Texas, I think, was an anomaly. We're not going to see him throw 3 picks a game ever again, I don't think. And then Hawkins has also gotten a lot better under Coach Kuz and Ben Arbuckle. Joe John Finley. I think Jaron Kanik is really, really good this year because Jaron Kanik is really, really good. And Joe John Finley hasn't had enough time to screw him up. Now, Joe John's recruiting really well because we've got Tyler Ruxer and Ryder Mix coming in this next cycle. And they're both freak athletes when it comes to being a tight end. They're built like tight ends. Jaron Kanik is not built like your run-of-the-mill tight end. Caden Helms is not built like your run-of-the-mill tight end. Will Huggins, Carson Kent, they're not your run-of-the-mill tight end. Carson Kent's probably your closest one. Will Huggins probably a little bit more too. But your 2 best tight ends aren't built like average tight ends. They're a lot slimmer. They're a lot smaller. And again, Jaron Kanik is just a freak athlete. There's no avoiding that. We'll see what happens with Joe John. I think Jaron saved him this year. And we will have to see how Joe John does over the next 1 to 2 seasons with these newer, younger guys coming in. Ben Arbuckle, I need a little bit more creativity and commitment to the run game. Please, buddy. Just don't give Torrey Blaylock 2 carries and then just, if it's like 2 or 3 yards a gain, pull it and go to passing all day. No, you got to just push it sometimes. Run, get 2-3 yards, run, get 2-3 yards, pass to get the first down, then immediately go back to the run and drill and figure out the run game, man. And a lot of that also depends on Bill Bedenbow figuring out the offensive line. And, of course, DeMarco Murray, my favorite coach on this Oklahoma staff. In my world, here's the thing. I don't think anyone's getting fired if we lose to South Carolina. As much as I would love to see a head roll, and ideally it be DeMarco Murray's, because I think dude's not good at his job. He was a great player, not a great coach. Since Eric Gray, we've had nothing. And he's had consistently good recruits, 4 stars. Taylor Tatum was a 5. Or no, at least a 4. He was highest rated running back in his class. And they just get worse every year that they're with DeMarco. Every year. And I really am starting to think, like with Jaron Caddick, the only reason Torrey Blaylock, a true freshman, is starting over 4-star fourth-year seniors like Javonte Barnes or an elite transfer, or supposed to be an elite transfer like Jaden Ott, or absolute studs or physical specimens and massive dudes like Xavier Robinson, or the highest rated running back in his class in Taylor Tatum. Only reason Torrey Blaylock, a true freshman, is starting over them is because, again, like Joe John Finley, DeMarco hasn't had enough time to mess him up. Hasn't had enough time to screw him up. I think we need to part ways with DeMarco Murray. I had a whole thing about that on the WhackoPreview on Monday. You want to go watch it, by all means. But yeah, I'm not a DeMarco Murray fan. I want him gone. I want him gone. I want a proven running backs coach who not only... Honestly, I don't really care if our running backs coach was a great player. All right? I care about, has he been a running backs coach for an extended period of time and his resume is consistently good? That's what I care about. If we could somehow find Cale Gundy and get him back, please get me Cale Gundy back. Ultimately, I need to see more intensity from the coaching staff all the way around. The defense has it. Absolutely. The offense needs to be worked on, and that's a reflection of Brent. Brent needs to put his hands on the offense more. He cannot leave it alone anymore. He needs to take more control and say, look, I don't care how we do it. We are doing it this way. We are going to do it this way. Take executive decisions out of Ben Arbuckle's hands and say, Ben, you call the plays. You run the offense at practice, and you call the plays in the game. But when it comes to administration, how we manage it, that's me. You are the head coach. You're not a executive DC with some say over what the offense does. You are the head coach. Take control of the dang offense. So now, speaking of that, taking control on offense, game day. Can we put the Gamecocks on a spit and roast them over the fire? Can we do that on Saturday? I think so. So let's break down our opponents here for a minute. So Lenora Sellers, true freshman last year, balled out 9-3. Just barely missed the playoffs. Beamer ball all the way. So far this season, the Gamecocks have had a rough time, if we're being brutally honest here. They are 3-3, and it's been rough. I mean, they got killed by Vandy at home. They just lost to LSU in actually a pretty competitive game. And it's just not been what they expected it to be with everything that they had going last year. Now, granted, they did lose Nick Emanwari. They did lose Kyle Kennard. But you didn't expect such a big fall off. You expected some consistency. Now, remember, they were 3-3 coming into this game last year. They lost a close one to Alabama the week before. Then they came out. Michael Hawkins helped South Carolina get up 21-0 within the first 6 minutes of the game. And then South Carolina went off to the races and went 9-3 to close out the year. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I do not think that's going to happen. And parts of the reasons for that, first of all, Lenora Sellers, So far, he's only got 1,010 yards passing on the year. He's got a 64% completion, so that's 73 of 114. Only 4 passing touchdowns. He's got 2 interceptions. That's not good, man. And he's only had 3 pass catchers catch touchdowns, right? You've got wide receivers Vandravius, I think I'm saying that right, Vandravius Jacobs with 2 of those touchdowns, Nick Harbor with 1, and then there's a third one in there. But that one touchdown was the most contribution he's made this year. And Jacobs, he's got 340 yards on the season, 20 receptions. Nick Harbor, who everyone was talking about, is wide receiver 1 for South Carolina. He's got 13 receptions for 256 yards. As for their run game, between their top 3 running backs, Faison, not sure, Fuller and Attaway, they've all got 120 yards, 154 yards, 230 yards, reverse order. You know, that rushing attack's pretty solid, but they haven't faced Oklahoma's defensive line. This defensive line is going to rip that apart. And especially with how bad South Carolina's offensive line has been, as I briefly mentioned earlier, Lenora Sellers has been sacked 19 times for 167 yards. And they have not played the Oklahoma defensive line yet. I wouldn't be shocked if Brent decides to be so aggressive at the line of scrimmage, like he was against Auburn, to force the issue with the quarterback. Plug the run, force the quarterback to throw and be uncomfortable, and then get after him. I would not be shocked if that's a similar game plan that we see, given how little that this South Carolina offense has produced. Because also between their 3 big running backs, they've got 6 rushing touchdowns. So that's a total of 10 touchdowns so far this season. And then add to it, Sellers has 2 interceptions, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also has 70 carries for 117 yards and 1 touchdown. So that's 11 total touchdowns this year. But Lenora Sellers is supposedly one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in all of college football. But he and South Carolina have not been playing like it so far this year. I think that we're going to beat them. I think that the defense is going to have a good time. They're going to go get him. They're going to cook him. I think the offense is still going to struggle a bit, especially in the run game, but I think we will figure it out, and the defense will help us pull away well enough. A couple guys to watch out for, though, on that South Carolina defense. You do have Dylan Stewart. You do have Justin Okoronkwo. Watch out. Because Fasusi, off left tackle for us, true freshman, he's not at 100%. Derek Simmons got injured last week against Texas. He's not going to be at 100%. You've got Luke Buklenko there at tackle. But that's it. All of our other tackles are out. So that's something to be concerned about. We need to make sure that we hold the line. Do not bring in the tight ends to block. Go 4 wide. All right? Do not bring the tight ends to block. Just do 5 basic offensive line and just pass, do runs, and honestly, target the inside of that defensive line a little bit in the run game with a lot of inside zone, maybe some dives, just to really push on that interior defensive line, because it's not what it was last year. All right? Set the edge. Put in Foje there at guard, over there at right guard if you want. Maybe try shifting him out to right tackle. Who knows? I know that's a bit of a jump, but just see, because kid's talented. We'll have to see how all that goes when it comes to the run game. Again, please, fire DeMarco Murray. Sellers has been good by, basic standards, not by the standards that we expected based out of last year's results, right? Because, and when I say good, and again, we have gone through his stats here, but just when I say good, I mean, he's all right. He can do it. I think the defense is going to have fun with him. I think the offense will figure some stuff out. It will not be super pretty. It will not be domination, I don't think. I think we'll win comfortably. I don't think that we're going to, go to town and put up 4+ scores on them. So, of course, we also went through our stats from last week at the beginning of this episode of the preview. So, Let's hope it gets better. I know hope's not a strategy. I think it will get better. I'm confident that it will get better. As for the current spread right now, OU is favored -5.5. Torrey Blaylock was officially announced as running back 1 by Ben Arbuckle in his presser. Hopefully we're not doing any more of this crazy rotation of, like I said earlier, 2 runs from Torrey. Oh, it's not working. Pull it out and we'll scrap it. No, just commit to it. I want to see more Xavier Robinson because dude's a beast. He's huge. Javonte Barnes is injured. Taylor Tatum, he's still kind of injury after injury, and then the whole dedication, not loving football as much as he should thing to be on the football team. And, of course, we know how I feel about Jaden Ott. I never want to see him in pads again. He's honestly this year's Jackson Arnold or Bauer Sharp. Complete miss, complete waste. I digress. But, yeah, I think we'll win. I think we'll win comfortably, not hugely, but we can dive more into that as we go into our Wacko Picks of the Week. Here we go. All SEC matchups, no non-con games this week. So, first and foremost, we'll start with the biggest spread. Texas at Kentucky. Texas, a 13.5-point favorite per ESPN. I think Texas is going to win. I hate to say it. We're going to take my OU bias out of the equation right now. We're going to figuratively take this off, put it off to the side. We'll put it back on in a minute. I don't think Texas is capable of popping off like these Quinn Ewers teams of the last couple of years. I don't think that their win will be as dominant as Texas fans would like it to be. And I think that Kentucky can sneakily pull off a win in this one. After all, last year we did see them take Georgia down to the wire 13-12. Georgia did end up winning that game. And of course, last year is not transitive to this year, and games from last week are not always transitive to games this week. But ultimately, Kentucky, like every other team in the SEC, is capable of standing up and biting you. If you not even if you aren't prepared. Anyone can bite anybody. I mean, heck, we're looking at it now. All right? Because we all went in thinking that it was a sure win for Oklahoma last week, and it wasn't. Most people thought Texas was going to go and beat Florida. They didn't. Thought Georgia was going to handle Alabama at home. They didn't. So, the SEC is just so deep. I don't think it's going to work for Kentucky. All right? But Texas has yet to impress me a lot this year. Again, OU bias out of it. Their win against Oklahoma last week was a good, serviceable win. They did enough to get out alive, but they didn't look great. They did the bare minimum to escape. And I know that saying escape is probably not the correct choice of words because it was 23-6 to end the day. But going into the fourth quarter, it was still a one-score game. It was 13-6. And Oklahoma's defense was still doing all right. So, Texas hasn't impressed me yet. If they win out the rest of the way, I will willingly and wholly admit, yeah, all right, Texas is pretty dang good. If they get there, I don't think they will. I think they'll lose to Georgia. I think they'll lose to Texas A&M. They may lose to Vandy. I wouldn't be surprised with what we've seen Vandy do this year. So we'll have to see how that goes. I do pick Texas to win 30-13. I do have them covering. All right, so that's a 17-point win right there. I think Texas will win. I would believe, a 23-13 win maybe. I'd believe, or anything below 30, but still above by at least one score. That's what I think. Texas will win by at least one score, but my current pick is 30-13. All right, next we have Mississippi State at Florida. Florida, a 9.5-point favorite per ESPN. Gosh, Billy Napier is terrible. Like, for the Florida fans, I pray that you lose to Mississippi State so you can get rid of Billy Napier on Sunday or Saturday night if you like. I think this Florida defense is good. I think the Florida offense is pretty dang good, especially the offensive line. I think DJ Lagway's cleaned up a lot of stuff as opposed to what he was doing earlier this season. If he plays clean, Florida should win. I think Florida should win, assuming DJ plays consistently, the defense does their job, and Billy doesn't make some boneheaded calls out of nowhere. However, I love me some Jeff Lebby. That guy has turned Mississippi State around pretty quickly, considering that he's halfway into year 2. Do I think that they're going to be going to win a SEC championship anytime soon? No. But Levy offenses are pretty scary. They're very dynamic. They love their tempo. I've got Mississippi State pulling off the upset here. I think that Florida is still going to have some inconsistencies, and they're going to make mistakes. I think Blake Shapen and Jeff Lebby are going to pull one out, and they're going to go nuts. I think that they're going to be aggressive on offense, and they're going to do all right on defense. And I think Napier is going to make some boneheaded decisions. I think that Mississippi State wins in the swamp 27-20. Watch me be wrong about that. Watch it happen. All right. Next, we have Tennessee at Alabama. The third Saturday in October. So, Alabama per ESPN, 8.5-point favorite. This should be a classic watch of the year because you've got a methodical offense like Kalen DeBoer and Ty Simpson there at Alabama, an explosive balls to the wall, light them on fire with Joey Aguilar and Josh Heupel. This should be a fun game to watch. This should be really fun. And add to it, it is a rivalry game. It's the third Saturday in October. Come on. However, I think Alabama's going to win this one. They've done a lot of good stuff. They narrowly, or not even narrowly, they had the lead against Missouri. They managed to get a pick and just seal it. So great. Good for them. I think, though, that the Alabama defense at home is going to play really dominant. That they will hold Joey Aguilar down a fair bit. I think that the fourth quarter, Tennessee is going to come out swinging, and they're going to aim to go take it back and win it. I think that Joey Aguilar is going to lead a great drive to try to go win the game, but make a critical turnover in Alabama's end zone. So when he's at the door of finishing the game and winning, I think Tennessee is going to lose. Alabama to win 34-30 off of another turnover like they did against Missouri. All right. Next, we've got Texas A&M at Arkansas. 7.5-point favorite is A&M. Bobby Petrino surprised me last week, coming in as the interim, returning to his old job. Close one with Tennessee at Neyland, after all. I think Taylor Green's solid. If the Razorbacks around him step up, and Bobby Petrino is a totally different guy than Sam Pittman. If Arkansas can figure itself out, and they've had another week under Bobby Petrino to get better acquainted with him and how they want to do stuff in the interim, I think that Arkansas could do a good job, and maybe the crowd could help turn the tide because it is at Arkansas. I do still think that A&M is too good. I think A&M is going to win. Marcel Reed is solid. Those receivers are solid. The run game is really good. The defense is pretty dang good. Now, I know I just said that I think if the Arkansas team can step up and if the crowd does their job, that Arkansas could pull it out. Now, my score prediction totally contradicts that. I do still think that Texas A&M is going to go a little bit nuts. I think it's going to be 37-20. And, yeah. I honestly don't know if Arkansas is going to score that much. We'll have to see. Because I don't know. Because on the one hand, they weren't great early in the season. Then they did okay against Tennessee last week. We'll have to see how that one goes. All right, Ole Miss at Georgia. College game day. Right? Trinidad Chambliss versus Kirby Smart and Gunnar Stockton. LSU was not a great win for Ole Miss, ultimately, because LSU has not been that great. Nussmeier's hurt, but we'll dive into that when we talk about LSU at Vandy. Ole Miss also looked terrible against Wazoo, and Wazoo lost only by a field goal. So, I mean, and it's freaking Wazoo after losing John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle and John Kuzieski and a lot of other guys in the draft. So, or not a lot of other guys, but they lost some of their key guys from last year on the offense, and they were still able to keep up with Ole Miss. Better than LSU was. So I don't know if that's more an indictment on LSU or Ole Miss not being as great. Maybe Wazoo's just good. Who knows? But since Ole Miss had the inconsistency issue with Wazoo, I do pick Georgia to win. I trust Kirby Smart and his dogs at home against anyone but Alabama. So that being said, I have Georgia winning. I have them to cover that 7.5 spread. I've got them to win 34-24. All right. Next, we've got, here it is. LSU at Vanderbilt up there in Nashville. Diego Pavia is a dude. Clark Lee has done a great job turning Vandy into a group of monsters. Again, I keep hearing them being compared to terrorists and people from certain countries with ties to terrorists and terrorism. And I just think that's so funny, calling Vandy the terrorists, because they did come out of nowhere like the Mongols. And I know I said that last week as well. I think Nussmeier has been a huge disappointment this year. I think he's hurt more than most of us know. And we probably won't know until the end of the year. I just think he's not firing on all cylinders. And LSU has not really run the ball very well this year. And I think Vandy, they've just got those dogs in them. Or no, dogs have Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores in them. The Commodores do not have dogs in them. Dogs have the Commodores in them. All right? And Vandy's just, they've got this edge. They're angry little guys. They just want to come out and they want to bite you. They want to beat you. I think this LSU defense, though, it's really physical. It's really complex. They've done a great job over there in the last 2 years turning that around. I think that Pavia will have a turnover or two, given that defense. But I trust the fire that is Vanderbilt football to win 27-20. I think they're going to do it there at home. The Vandy fans have a lot to love right now. So I think that they're also going to play a factor in this, and we will not see empty Vandy games for a while. All right, one that I'm excited to talk about, Mizzou at Auburn. Mizzou is currently a 1.5-point favorite per ESPN. I think that's a load of crap. I think Mizzou's going to kill them. They're at Jordan Hare. Because, now mind you, that Auburn defense is good. That is a really good Auburn defense. But the offense is atrocious. Jackson Arnold is atrocious. Jeremiah Cobb, good, especially when you've got him in the double feature with Damari Alston. But Damari Alston, a team captain at running back, has left the program. And based on some conversations I had, it had to do with him saying, this season's not going the way I wanted it to. I'm not getting the touches I want, not getting the numbers I want. I'm not contributing as much as I thought I would. I'd like to play on the scout team this year, sit out the rest of the season. And Hugh Freeze went to the powers that be and is like, this is what he wants to do. And they're like, but he would still get his NIL package. And Damari was like, yeah, that's the idea. And Hugh Freeze and the other powers that be at Auburn are just like, yeah, that's not going to work. You being on scout team, but we still keep paying you what we have been paying you to play, etc. So, anyways, Damari Alston has decided to leave the program, or has left the program, whether that was his own choice or not. Hugh Freeze, I believe, worded it as he was removed from the team. I think if you asked Damari, though, he'd say he chose to leave because it wasn't great. Just like the Georgia game, I think that Auburn is going to do a good job on defense in the first half. The offense might get a couple things going, but eventually that Auburn offense, Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold, the pair of them, are just going to stall out again, and Mizzou will pull away. I have Mizzou to win at 24-13. And finally, last game of the weekend, Oklahoma at South Carolina. Obviously, OU, 5.5-point favorite. I did say that I pick Oklahoma to win. It's a bounce-back game for us. The defense is elite. The offense will be cleaner. It'll be better. Material will be cleaner. He will be better. Again, Lenore Sellers in that offensive line. They've had trouble so far this season. And it's the best defensive line that they're going to face in Oklahoma. The South Carolina wide receivers, they've been underwhelming. Again, Mateer, more time to heal, more time to practice. And a 12:45 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, so that's 11:45 here, where a lot of us Oklahoma fans are. That kickoff time is going to help so much. I would hate for our guys to have to go into Williams-Brice at night. So I think going in there middle of the day will make it a little bit less hostile, a little less problematic. I have Oklahoma to win. Same score as the Michigan game at 24-13. That is my pick. So we'll see how that goes. Hopeful, praying. Hopefully we get it all together. Well, Sooner Nation, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Wacko Sooners podcast, where we break down all things OU football going into the weekend of matchups ahead. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. Remember, you can follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all at Wacko Sooners for more news updates, game time highlights, a few memes and reels to keep it lighthearted and fun like we like it here in Sooner Nation. So go hit those follows. Make sure you're always in the Wacko loop. We will see you on Monday for our Wacko review after all the game results. And of course, we plan on bringing back the Wacko Weekly podcast that we did miss this week. Sorry about that. But anyways, that's it. Have a great time. Watch the games tomorrow. Boomer Sooner.